When the flames reached her porch and I heard her scream, I realized karma doesn't always come quietly, it roars. The same woman who tried to burn my barn to the ground was now watching her own house go up in smoke. I didn't start that fire, but I sure as hell made sure the truth was burning right beside it. I moved to Cedar Ridge for peace, not war. 22 years in the Army, half of it overseas, I'd had enough chaos to last a lifetime. The old farmhouse I bought wasn't much, but it had soul. The barn, though, that was something else. My grandfather used to say barns hold memories better than homes. I didn't get it back then, but after sanding the old beams and smelling the mix of hay oil and time itself, I finally did. That barn was more than wood and nails, it was heritage. And soon it became ground zero for a neighbor's obsession. Her name was Karen Whitfield, president of the HOA. My first week there, I was sanding a bench out back when I heard the sharp click of heels on gravel. She showed up in a tan suit, pearls, gleaming that perfect smile you only see on people who've never done a hard day's work. "You must be our new neighbor," she said, holding her clipboard like a badge. When her eyes locked on my barn, she asked if I planned to keep that structure. I told her, yeah, that's the plan. Her smile tightened. We prefer buildings that match the neighborhood aesthetic. That was strike one. Within a month, I got 4 violation notices. Grass too long, faded fence paint tools left out, and finally the barn itself deemed non-compliant. I sent them proof that the barn predated the HOA by 60 years. They didn't care. Karen had decided I was a problem, and in Cedar Ridge, when the HOA queen points her finger, everyone looks away. I tried ignoring it. I kept fixing painting, minding my own damn business, but she wouldn't stop circling, muttering about fire hazards. I called the fire chief myself, had him inspect the barn. He said it was safer than most new builds. That didn't sit well with Karen. When she couldn't find anything to find me for, she found something else to burn, literally. Late October wind season. I was drinking coffee on the porch when I saw her dragging leaves to the corner of her yard right beside my barn fence. She struck a match like she was lighting a candle and smiled as the flames climbed higher. I was on my feet, instantly grabbing the hose. "You planning to put that out?" I called. She didn't even flinch. "Perfectly legal," she said. HOA allows seasonal leaf burns. The wind picked up hard and fast. Embers flew toward my barn. "Legal or not, it's reckless," I told her. She just smirked. "Maybe you should have torn that thing down like I suggested." That's when I knew it wasn't ignorance. It was personal. I hosed down the fence and filed a report with the fire department. 2 days later, I got a letter not from them but from the HOA accusing me of provoking confrontation. They twisted it, made me the aggressor. I attended the next HOA meeting to defend myself. Karen sat at the front table like a queen, her voice echoing through the mic. When I tried to speak, she cut me off. "We are not here to debate personal grievances," she snapped. The room went dead silent. A few neighbors looked sympathetic, but no one spoke. I recorded everything. If this was going to turn into a war, I was done fighting blind. So I prepared. Cameras on the barn, motion sensors, cloud backups. And sure enough, a few days later, she showed up again, snooping around, taking photos. I had her on tape, time-stamped, GPS logged. I waited patient. Because people like Karen always overplay their hand. The next fire came with the wind, 30-mile-an-hour gusts that could lift your hat off your head. I saw her again, dragging another pile of leaves to the same damn spot. I hit record before she even struck the lighter. "Don't you dare," I warned across the fence. She smiled and lit it anyway. I dialed 911 while filming. My voice was steady, clipped. "Yes, this is Daniel Granger at 114 Cedar Ridge Lane. Neighbor is burning leaves during a red flag warning. Flames near my barn. Dispatch confirmed units were on the way, but by the time the trucks arrived, her porch was already on fire. The wind had turned tossing embers back onto her own house. I watched her realize it too late, the panic, the disbelief. She tried beating the flames with a pillow. The fire didn't care. It climbed her porch railing, then the wall. Neighbors screamed. Sirens blared. And Karen, who once accused me of endangering the neighborhood, was suddenly crying for help. When the firefighters arrived, I stayed on my side of the fence filming. She pointed at me, shouting, "He did this. He set me up. I didn't even answer. I just showed the footage to the fire chief. It showed her lighting the pile. It showed everything." The next morning, the county opened an investigation. But Karen wasn't done. 2 days later, she showed up wearing a neck brace and sunglasses flanked by 2 HOA board members. "We're issuing you a citation," she announced, "creating unsafe conditions that contributed to a structure fire." I laughed in her face. She tried claiming I used wind-inducing equipment to blow flames toward her house. "Industrial fans," she said. "Completely fabricated." I handed her a folder with the county fire code red flag warnings and video evidence. "You violated every safety regulation in the book," I said. "And if you set foot on my property again, I'll have a restraining order ready." She stormed off, humiliated. That night, I sat in my barn with the lights off, listening to the wind through the slats. For a moment, I wondered if it was worth it. Maybe I should have just moved somewhere without all this HOA nonsense. Maybe peace meant letting people like her win. But then I looked at the burn marks on the fence inches from where she could have burned down everything I'd built, and I decided no, I wasn't running again. I wasn't. A few days later, Fire Marshal Ortega visited. He reviewed the footage, measured distances, and confirmed what I already knew: her actions were criminal. "Most people don't push back against their HOAs," he said. I told him I didn't serve 20 years for freedom overseas just to be bullied in my backyard. And then the wind returned along with Karen. She lit another pile. Same spot, bigger fire. This time, Ortega was already on his way. I filmed as she struck the match. "You don't scare me," she yelled. "I don't need to," I said. "You're doing it to yourself." The fire jumped fast, feeding on the dry leaves, the wind roaring like a freight train. Embers flew, and within seconds, her roof caught again. The whole neighborhood watched. When the fire trucks arrived, she ran toward me screaming, "You did this. You edited the footage. You're framing me." Ortega stepped between us, holding up his badge. "Ma'am, you're under investigation for reckless endangerment," he said calmly. She froze, then collapsed right there on the grass. They didn't cuff her, not yet, but everyone saw it. The HOA queen had finally fallen. Her perfect house, her control, her power, all turned to ash. Afterward, the HOA board met without her. The treasurer came to my door with official papers Karen removed as president, all violations against me rescinded. He mumbled something about fear, about how everyone had been too scared to stand up to her. "Cowardice isn't a defense," I told him. Weeks passed. Karen's house sat empty, blue tarp over the roof, yellow tape fluttering in the wind. I should have felt triumphant, but I didn't. There was just silence. Then a letter arrived from the county prosecutor. Karen was being charged with reckless endangerment and malicious complaints. Finally, accountability. I thought that would be the end, but Karen tried one last move. A lawsuit. She claimed I caused her emotional distress and defamed her by providing the footage. My lawyer, Dana Hastings, another veteran, read the letter, smirked, and said, "She poked the wrong bear. We countersued. Defamation, harassment, abuse of authority. Attached over 100 pages of evidence." Within a week, her lawyers dropped her. No statement, no appeal, just silence. Karen vanished, leaving behind a charred house and a legacy of fear turned to shame. The HOA restructured. I joined not for power, but for fairness. At the first meeting, I told them rules are supposed to protect us, not be weaponized. People actually clapped. Months later, I was standing at the fence line, the barn behind me, when Maya, the neighbor who once watched in silence, said, "You saved more than your property, you know." Maybe she was right. The whole neighborhood had changed. People talked again, laughed again. The fog of control was gone. Then one last letter arrived. Handwritten, shaky. "Daniel," it said, "I was wrong. About the fire. About you. I lost everything trying to control what I didn't understand. I won't return. Karen." I folded it, put it in the same folder as the evidence, and walked to the barn. Inside, I painted one word on the door in bold red letters: resilient. Because that's what this story really was. Not about revenge, not about fire, but about standing your ground when someone tries to burn your peace to ashes and letting the wind carry the truth for you.